Hi, everyone. I'm the director for our New Zealand registered not-for-profit charitable educational trust called Common Knowledge. And we hold all of the birth skills called Birthing Better that fathers and mothers developed in the early 1970s in the United States. It was a unique time. The very first childbirth preparation classes were being taught, and there was an extraordinarily high societal expectation that all of us pregnant families take those classes, and those were entirely skills based. Fathers were just coming into hospitals. We had all the assessments, monitoring, procedures being done, yet multiple millions of women from the 60s to the mid 70s and multiple millions of fathers used skills to birth their baby. We didn't suffer as much. We coped a lot better and managed. We felt proud of our births because we used skills to do the activity of birthing our baby. At that point, it looked as though skills would evolve because those first skills weren't as good as they could have been. They were the first ones, and all of us know any system that develops skills at first, they improve over time. They evolve, just as when we learn skills, at first we're a beginner and we feel awkward. But as those skills are incorporated into our lives, we develop a mastery of them. So you would have thought that skills would have been noticed as reducing the suffering, giving women the ability to cope and manage with the natural occurring pain of labor contractions, and that fathers were really helpful. You think people would have noticed that. But the reality is that the focus of those skills-based methods was for low-risk women to achieve a natural birth, pain-free labor with no medical interventions. So right away, way back then when I gave birth, we went into two paths. This one path got followed, the skills-based path got put aside. And here I am today. Now, for the past 25 years, I've been very, very quiet. I've been frustrated. I can't even explain to you how I feel. We need to have skills to birth our babies. That's just the bottom line. Sure, you can have choices, but some women lack choices. Some women make choices and they unfold the way they want, but they didn't like them. Or choices change. Choices are just weird. We cannot envision the birth we have. We can envision a birth we want. We all want a safe birth. We all want to have a positive birth experience. But in the late 70s and the 1980s, the famous birth authors actually came out and said, cows and cats aren't taught to birth, women don't need skills. And from then on, birth plans became the norm. Skills were no longer taught in classes. Fathers and mothers are no longer skilled. And we are here today with COVID. So why did I come out after 25 years of basically just working behind our charitable trust? Because it is what it is. I mean, this is where it's not an intentional dishonesty, but the dishonesty of the natural birth movement. Let's just give an example. Women need to feel safe to birth. Does that even make sense in a world where there is war or famine or natural disasters? Does that make sense? No, it doesn't. So why are we telling each other that as women? It doesn't make sense. Birth is an activity each of us has to do with her baby by herself. Doesn't matter if there are 100 people in the room. Doesn't matter if there's nobody. Nobody can do the birth for us. We're the only ones who are pregnant. We're the only ones giving birth. So wouldn't it make sense that this activity would be elevated to something that is enriched by skills? Yeah, think. That would be common sense. That's what we thought was going to happen in the 1970s. We thought that those skills, Lamaze and Bradley, would mature and develop because people would say, I would like skills for this or that or this or that, and the Bradley and Lamaze didn't cover them. So when Birthing Better Families developed the skills in the early 1970s, it was because we wanted to develop skills for all of our births, not just low risk, not just normal births, not just pain-free labors, not just without medical care. We wanted skills for our birth, and you're faced with that reality now. COVID has changed everything, and it may for a long time. If you're pregnant now, this is the new message. This is what should have been the message back then, but this is the new message now. It's normal and natural when pregnant to self-learn birth and birth coaching skills, then use those skills to do the activity of birthing your baby. In all circumstances, we get pregnant to have a baby, not a type of birth. The focus is on type of birth, not on giving birth. And giving, what kind of a verb is that? Doing, kind of, well, it's a little bit better, but what is that? We can't explain birth as anything other than an activity. It takes place over time. When you're driving to the hospital, being prepped, lying there having surgery, that's an activity you're doing. Imagine that you have at least breathing and relaxation skills so that you can work through the activity with your baby to bring your baby out of your body and into your arms. This is what we need to do. COVID has just been a stark reminder. It is what it is. Hospitals don't necessarily feel safe right now. Some of you are now planning to have a home birth. Home births are great. You just need to know that giving birth is always an activity that each of us does with our baby. Without exception, we can't get around it. Nobody can do it for us. So, what is the new childbirth message now? Repeat it after me. It's normal and natural when you're pregnant to self-learn birth and birth coaching skills, then use those skills to do the activity of birthing your baby. That's the message that we need to be giving each other. Thankfully, there are a number of skills-based methods. Birthing Better is one of them. It's unique because it's the only one that really focuses on all births rather than those low-risk natural births. It's also the only skills-based method developed by fathers and mothers and not by somebody who had an idea that birth is natural and instinctive, and if you have positive thoughts, therefore you're going to have a good birth. We need to understand that there is a truth around childbirth. There are actually two truths. One is babies don't come to plan. The other is there's no way to know what your birth's going to be like. Those are truths. That's what we're working with. None of you pregnant women who have given birth in COVID expected to give birth during a COVID pandemic. My goodness, I have friends that are pilots for airlines. They didn't expect to not be paid or not to work. My goodness, things have changed. And now is the time for us to change the message in childbirth. So just repeat after me. It's normal and natural when you're pregnant to self-learn some birth and birth coaching skills and then use your skills to work through the activity of birthing your baby. No matter where your birth occurs, no matter who's present, no matter your circumstances, no matter your choices or your lack of choices, no matter if your choices change, no matter what happens to or around you. It's an activity you have to do, like the thousands of activities that you do in life. The only difference between birth and everything else you do is that it's infrequent. And it doesn't happen often. And it's life transforming. And it's dramatic. And you can't replay it. And you can't really learn from the last time because every birth is unique. But if we were doing birth as often as we have sex, if we were doing birth as often as we get hungry, trust me, humans would have developed skills for it. And we did. And you should have them, right? So, birthing in a time of COVID, you want to have skills. For several reasons. Yourself. That's the most important reason. And another reason is that the hospitals are very stressed. Who would they rather have come into the hospital if you go there? A skilled woman who is coping and managing and dealing and handling and working through and staying on top of and feeling in control throughout her birth? or a woman who is stressed and overwhelmed. Who would you rather be working with? It's common sense. So we have to apply common sense to something that is dynamic, giving birth. We just have to do it. So if you're pregnant now, or you know someone who's pregnant, tell them this is the new childbirth trend. It's normal and natural when you're pregnant to self-learn birth and birth coaching skills, and then use those skills to work through the activity of birthing your baby in all circumstances. Just tell your friends, tell yourself, act on it. When should you start learning skills? Around 24 weeks. Really, it takes time to learn to drive a car. It takes time to learn to be a good lover. It takes time to learn to cook. It takes time to learn to do anything. So give yourself at least 16 weeks to learn skills gently over a period of time, right? Why not? That's common sense. And if you're a birth provider listening to this, if you're an obstetrician or a GP or a midwife or a doula or a childbirth educator, you're the one seeing most women. You're the one that can now change the childbirth message. You're the one that can say to people, look, we'd love that you're making birth plans. That's fine. Some birth plans work out, some don't, but it's an activity you're going to do. And if you get good at this, just give them a handout of the different skills-based method, plunk it in their hands, and do that at sometime early in the pregnancy, and remind them at 24 weeks that you expect to hear what skills they've learned. You don't need to know the skill. You just need to know they learned a skill. Put it in their note. Just say, okay, they learned breathing. They learned relaxation the next time. They didn't learn anything. That's okay. But if the notes are there, anybody can read them. And the woman knows that her efforts to learn skills have been recorded. So when birth unfolds, if her choices unfold, great, wonderful. If they change, include her in decision making if you possibly can. If she looks and her partner looks like they're coping well in birth, praise them. You know that you like working with skilled families. It's stressful working with stressed out women in birth. It's very stressful. So the more you can build a skilled birthing population of your clients, the better. And if they look overwhelmed, everybody can refer to the notes and say, well, you learned breathing and relaxation. The woman might say to you, well, I said I did, but I didn't. Well, it is what it is. But if she did and doesn't feel now she should use those skills, you need to remind her, you got pregnant to have a baby. This is your baby's birth. Use skills to work through the activity of birthing your baby. Now, as parents, what does this do for us? First of all, you need to have a reality check. Men and women are human beings. We all blink, we all cough, we can all tighten up our rectum. We all have emotions, and we all thrive on being skilled. 99.9999999% of us are adults who are skilled when we give birth. Very few unskilled adults in life. Then we get pregnant. And then suddenly everything changes. Women feel out of control because they have a new life inside them growing that takes over their body. Men don't know what the hell has happened. A woman suddenly changes. And we suddenly feel unskilled. Now the reality is birthing better fathers develop skills for that period, from conception through the 5 phases of pregnancy. And those are on the Udemy, udemy.com platform, as fathers-to-be and mothers-to-be pregnancy academies. And then we develop skills to prepare our body to open up and create space from 24 weeks onward, and we develop skills to work through the activity of birthing your baby, whether we labored or whether we had a non-laboring cesarean. We're always breathing. Our body is in some position or posture. We can always soften inside. We can always work together as a team. So we developed skills, which meant, as human beings, men and women alike, we carried forward a continuity of self as feeling skilled from prior to pregnancy, through preparing for birth, and through working through this dynamic, infrequent, can't be replayed activity of birthing our baby. which meant after the birth, we could leave the birth behind, almost no matter what happened to or around us. And we were now ready to parent. And because we had grown skills during pregnancy and grown skills to prepare for birth and used skills to work through the activity of birthing our baby, we felt competently skilled or willing to learn more skills when we had a newborn. And this is remarkably different from what has happened over the past 40 years, because my generation of mothers and fathers experienced that. We felt awkward with newborns for sure. We have to grow together, our children and us. As there's an old saying, 9 months to grow and 9 months to know. So by the time our kids are 9 months, we know them, but we have to grow them. And we grow them inside our belly and we grow them outside our belly. And when we have skills, we feel more confident and capable, and we're more relaxed as parents. And that serves the family well. So the benefits of this new trend, that it's normal and natural when pregnant to self-learn birth skills and birth coaching skills, then use those skills to work through the activity of birthing your baby, has a huge positive spin-off to us as parents of newborns, both mothers and fathers. I can honestly tell you that in the 70s, as imperfect Lamaze and Bradley skills were, as sort of silly many of them were, ineffective, and they didn't adjust or adapt, and they weren't sustainable, they were something. And fathers and mothers used skills together, so we worked better together when we had our newborn. But when the choice-based approach came along and fathers were reduced from being a birth coach to being a birth support who supported a woman's choices, then he was sidelined. He was still expected to be at a birth. And women know when their partners can't help them. And men felt useless and helpless. They knew that they couldn't help. And what happens after the birth? The woman knows that the man didn't help her, and she pushes him away from his child. And families split up because women feel that they're taking care of two children. We don't want men and women who are adults to become children when they need to become mothers and fathers. So we need you all to become skilled. So what's the new childbirth message? Repeat after me. It's normal and natural to self-learn birth skills and birth coaching skills in pregnancy, and then use those skills to work through the activity of birthing your baby, no matter how your birth unfolds. That's a simple message. It's easy for me to repeat, and I can vary the same sentence and still say the same thing. You can do the same, and it's important that we do, particularly during COVID, because you may not be able to bring that doula into that birth. You may not be able to bring your partner into that birth. And you are going into a hospital that may be stressed because it has COVID patients. So you want to do your bit. Every little bit helps. And what that means is that from now on, we need to grow a skilled birthing population. Sure, make choices, but do the activity of birthing your baby. That's your job. Okay, I've said what I had to say, and since I've come back out publicly now, please follow us on YouTube, follow us on Facebook, donate to our charitable trust. There's a donation button on our commonknowledge.org, commonknowledgetrust.org website and our birthingbetter.org website. They're all online courses on our birthingbetter.org. We now have 12 courses, and we have a COVID course. You want to become skilled. So tell everybody it's normal and natural when you're pregnant to self-learn birth and birth coaching skills, and then use the skills to work through the activity of birthing your baby. So see you later, and let's work together to finally do what we should have done in the 70s, which is to grow a skilled birthing population. That's what we should have done, because if we had, I would not be talking to you today. My generation would have said to our children, it's normal and natural, self-learn birth and birth coaching skills, and then use those skills to birth your baby, and skills would have evolved. And then my children's generation would have told their children, and today you would know that it is natural and normal when pregnant to self-learn birth and birth coaching skills, and then use those skills to work through the activity of birthing your baby. And when we reclaim this, when we reclaim birth as an activity, the shame, the blame, the guilt, the disappointment, the anger, the emotional birth trauma that has just skyrocketed will just reduce, because we will have skillfully worked through our baby's birth. No matter where we birth, no matter who is present, no matter our circumstances, our choice or lack of choices or change of choices, or what happens to or around us, we would just commit to using skills to birth our baby, just like we commit to using skills when we get behind the wheel of the car. We don't stop, right? So join us today, and let's spread the new message, and let's get on to it. We can't wait. See you later.